Hello, players who are always trying to fuck the BBEG.
And DMs who cannot figure out how to make your party fucking party.
Welcome back to Table Talk. I'm Maddie.
And I'm Robert.
What are we talking about today?
Today we are going to talk about character relationships. This one's probably going to be a little bit more of a player-heavy episode just because I've kind of wanted that. I feel like I've been
Finally.
yapping and yipping a lot just because I
Shut
have
the fuck up.
a lot to say, a lot of knowledge swimming up here. You know what I'm saying? I always feel like I got to be the loudest person in the room. Not really. I love hearing people's perspectives. Otherwise, I wouldn't be on a fucking podcast with another person. I'd just do something by myself. But I'm not. But the whole point of today's episode is to talk about sort of the dynamics between players at the table, how to make relationships between PCs. Also, how to, I think from the DM's perspective, my little bit of 2 cents in this is going to be how to craft and maintain relationships between NPCs and PCs, which I think is very difficult because unless you are fully into, like, you are every person you've ever role-played as a DM, like, you are just fully multiple
Unless you're an
personality
actor.
disorder. But, like, it goes beyond being an actor, though, man, because it's like, at a table, at any given table, a DM could be like 6 different people over the course of 2 hours, and every one of those people has to be fully different from the next. And yes, actors can do that and do that all the time, but I think as a DM, when you're also directing, it's like if you had your director out there, and that director, on top of directing the whole show, was also playing 6 different characters in his own play, each which had its own voice, its own accent, its own... Lin-Manuel Miranda's a great
I
example
was
of
going to
this.
say, you're saying this.
But he doesn't direct the thing while he's playing in the thing.
That's literally, I do want to say, that's literally my dream. Like, if I got to choose what I
Yeah.
did in theater, that's what I would do.
No, that's so valid.
But
you get to
I'm
write
my-
everything and direct it at the same time,
Yeah.
and then also be an actor and be all your favorite parts.
I get to wear all that. I'm also a whole nother category of
Yeah.
human being.
No,
I'm
yeah.
an interesting person.
That would stress me the fuck out. But yeah, that's pretty much where my 2 cents ends and begins, man. It's just difficult to try and, especially trying to figure out how to fucking manage relationships between NPCs, because at the end of the day, it's all the same person.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I can write different character motivations and different this and different that and whatever the fuck, but, like, it's still me.
Yeah. And I think it just in general, I mean, not even from just a DM's perspective is it being difficult. I think it's difficult across the board of, like, a thing to manage. Because there's just relationships in any sort of form in general, because there's like the whole idea, and like at least I see all of the like fucking memes that I see on the internet about like D&D, or like all these jokes about like D&D is just like a thinly veiled excuse to flirt with your friends, or like if you're not flirting with your friends in D&D, are you even playing the game, and blah blah blah. And I think that's true for a lot of tables. That is not the energy at our specific table, just because of the nature of the group of people that we are playing with in our friend group. That's just
They're
far from the
afraid
vibe.
of human interaction.
Yeah, it is, and that is also something that's also kind of like
They run from it, truly.
I think those are the 2 extremes of the D&D tables. At least that's something that like I've experienced in my own time playing D&D, because when I was playing at another table briefly, all of us were like flirting with each other, and it was like a whole thing. And then sometimes you go to other tables, and it's like. I'm sorry, I cannot let that go unsaid. Robert has been sitting here trying to eat those little like mandarin orange cups and like drink the juice out of them, and I'm telling you right now, this man is covered in mandarin orange juice. It is in his
My
beard.
whole fucking
It is on
sleeve,
his
dude.
shirt.
Yeah, it's
It
a little
is.
everywhere. It's okay, though.
I was trying to get through this without saying
Nah,
anything,
you're
but
good.
it
I
was
figured at some point you'd mention it in some way or another.
bad.
Yeah.
But I think that like sometimes at tables it's a little bit more of like you have to put a little bit more effort in, a little bit more like try into making those kind of like inter party relationships work in any way, because I think
Interesting enough, I think talking about the difference between being an actor and being a D&D player is that at least as an actor, that shit is written.
yeah.
You know?
No, and I think that's the biggest difference between like being an actor and like playing D&D is that when you're an actor, everything
like
is
an
given to you.
unwritten play where the director is giving you real-time instructions about how
It's-
the world is interacting with you, and you got to
Yeah.
make the script up on your own.
It's like having improv with a director.
It's fucking insane. It's insanity.
Which oh my I'm not
requires
gonna get
not
into
to
that.
toot our own horns, but it requires an awful lot of fucking talent, man. Especially to do it well. Are you kidding me?
Sorry,
No, I think D&D and role playing and the whole fucking act of it,
It's
I think
hard.
it requires a hell of a lot of talent.
I will say I'm gonna go back on like when I was in middle school.
Back when I was in middle school.
Not even middle school. I'm gonna be full honest. Back up until 2020, maybe a
in
little bit into
2020.
2021. Sometimes you're weird and you're on the internet and you find other people that are weirder on the internet and you like also are on Discord. And sometimes
Blech.
you get involved in some like communities where you are creating some cool art. And then
See, I thought it was going in the route of sometimes you get involved in some communities where you're role playing.
that's where it's going, Robert.
But see, I'm thinking of
Not like sexually.
See, that's where I was thinking.
No.
Like you troll around on the internet, you meet some people on Omegle, you
I
hop
think
in
it's
like
almost-
chats, and then it's
I
like one
almost
thing leads
wish
to another.
It's gonna
and-
sound bad. I almost wish it was a sexual thing because I feel like it's more embarrassing if it's not.
no, that's so
it's
fair.
like no, I'm
Yeah,
just
we
like
live in a world where like you can fucking
we're just role playing
whatever you
like a
want to.
healthy friendship with someone. Like
role playing a healthy relationship is wild.
like dead ass. That's what I was doing, along with like other like really cool
that's
story
what's
points. It was
difficult.
basically D&D without the dice. We were just creating the
never
story with multiple players.
Experienced a healthy relationship in real life too. It's like how the fuck are you supposed to? Then...
I wasn't even going there. Wow.
No, but like,
okay.
truly, if you've never experienced like that particular kind of relationship, how the fuck are you supposed to then replicate it at the table without seeming like totally off guard and in like way out of your depth?
Yeah.
Key example: we've talked about this particular player whose dad, Batman. He's so far removed from that kind of personality and those experiences that he just like struggles
He's just
to
dead.
to replicate that
Yeah.
personality.
But I think the biggest thing before like talking and like delving into like the idea of like how to navigate these relationships.
All
and,
right,
like, how
we
to
have
make them
notes.
work.
I can't jump too far in them.
I like having notes. It keeps me on track. Just kind of like the first thing and these are just guidelines. You don't have to stick to that. You are putting so many like of these fucking mandarin oranges in your mouth at once.
Can you just go down the list
Okay.
instead of yelling at me for jumping too far ahead?
So I was just I'm not yelling at you. I'm just like, we don't have to follow it exactly. These are points that I wanted to talk about. But I wanted to talk about kind of like the idea of like just checking in with people because I think that that's like the first step. And this just kind of goes in general. When you're just because you're gonna inter-party relationships are gonna happen. They have to happen. We did a campaign where they damn near didn't happen, which was impressive to go that
I
long.
don't think I've ever seen a party not party that way before. That's why I picked my intro because I was thinking about how fucking impossible it was
Yeah.
to get my first party to be a party.
to interact
They
with
never
each other.
liked each other. They never talked to one another. They very rarely, if ever, shared personal information.
Yeah.
A few people would crack jokes, and that was about as far as it went.
Yeah, it was, some insults were thrown.
I think the most mutual it ever got was if you die, I have a higher chance of dying. And if we're doing the math on this one, keeping you alive is the best way to keep me alive.
That was the general feeling that everyone had towards Magnolia for
It truly felt like I had dropped. I mean, I kind of did though, which is funny enough. It was like if you dropped a bunch of people on an island and said your only way off the island is if you work with one another. Yeah, if you work with each other.
Yeah. But
And then none of you fucking talked to one another. You just
Yeah.
got through the experience,
was
you know?
so we're working on fixing that.
An
Going
awful lot like college roommates.
Truly, yeah. So this is this is how to make your party not feel like college roommates.
Oh, Jesus.
And we've talked before about like how to like it be a good player and like interact with other players. So we've like kind of hit those points, but this is gonna get kind of more into the nitty gritty and just like check in with the people that you're playing with.
Yeah.
And
Talk about-
see what they
Talk about what's going on.
yeah, see what they want. I think if it's something where like you're playing a bunch of characters that are very varied, or something, you just kind of get an idea. Be like, hey, are we cool with like, do we want our characters to be friends?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I know that as a person going into this. And I think there's two ways that you can kind of approach that. You can approach that in character and you can approach that out of character. I think if you're a more experienced player and you know the people that you're playing with very well, I think that you can do that completely in character and be like, just have it kind of happen organically and naturally and find where and your like relationship impulses kind of lie with different people. However, if you don't know the people that you're playing with very well, and if you're kind of just newer to the game in general, I think it is going to be the most beneficial for you to talk to them out of character and just be like, hey,
Well, what are we comfortable
so your character is like a warlock with like a fiend patron, and my character is a cleric, like a light cleric. There's probably going to be some tension there because our like very natures contradict each other.
with? Yeah.
do we want to like be antagonistic? Is that an okay thing to do? Or do we want to like do that? Which can feel a little bit like HRE, but genuinely I think it's going to help you in the long run. And that's something that like
it drops down to another one of your fancy points here, which is how to encourage difference and non-positive relationships without PvP. Navigating conflict between PCs and even PC to NPCs is so difficult because I mean, kind of with our first point, you want your party to party. Like, that's the whole fucking idea, man. I mean, and sometimes it's fun to, like, pit, conflicts against one another and interest, and, like, kind of like the Fiend versus Cleric thing, or, like a fucking rogue in a power party with a paladin. How do you balance it? And how do you just not have it be combat and cockblock every single fucking encounter?
It's tricky, and I've been on both sides of this, where I have been the person who...
Oh, yeah, I've been the person to tell the rogue no.
Yeah.
Like 4 times in one session. And it got to the point where, like, out of character, he was like, bro, let me do something.
Yeah.
Let me play the game.
And I'll say I've been on sides of this where I've been a character who has not known how to navigate, my first time playing, I didn't know how to not do PvP.
Nodding a
I
lot.
got into a physical altercation with every party member more than once. It was never like a thing that was supposed. No one. It was not like a cute thing. It was like, cool. She hits you.
A lot of it is learning how to coexist. I mean, we talked about it in another episode. Learning how to coexist when everyone's the main character is so impossible. Like,
and I think that's like really important.
How do you make sure your personality doesn't take up the whole fucking session, the whole campaign, the whole room?
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of ways, and we're dealing with this kind of like at our current table. And this is something where like me as someone who knows the people that I've been playing at this table with pretty well. We're about to go on vacation together for the second time, and Jesus, and also like has been playing with these people for a while, and I consider myself like a pretty decent player. I still like have real life conversations because there's a character. I'm playing a character named Nightlight with light-based powers, ray of fucking sunshine, very bubbly. And then there's a character named Shadow, who is a shadow character with a sensitivity to light.
Light and shadow.
And also is like Batman and like beats the shit out of people and tortures them.
Black and white, good and bad.
She doesn't think that that's okay. And we had a moment at the table where we've like we didn't really have time to do a lot of like inter-party like conversations with each other, and there was a moment where I was like, I don't like what you do. I don't approve of the way you do it.
And he went, yeah, no, me too.
And then Robert
tried to walk away, and I was like, no, can we explore that conversation like a little bit more? Like there was something to be had there.
And we had a really cool conversation about it, and we like talked about like why our characters did what they did or thought the way they thought. And then after the session we were talking, we were like, no, that was really fun. Like I would love to explore the conflict there because these are two characters who get along very well otherwise. But this is kind of a big hurdle to get over of like, are you going to be okay with someone who like beats the shit out of people?
And I think that's when it really starts to become important, being like both a director and writer, and not just like the guy telling the story and pushing the levers and pulling the buttons, you know? Like sometimes as the DM, you do have to step in and go, no, there's like, this is the script. This is what you should say. This is the dialogue we're going to follow. This is the route we're going to pursue. Because part of your job, and this might sound a little pretentious, part of your job is to know more than your players and to be like not a step above them, but just to be vigilant about all of the things happening and not happening.
Yeah.
And if you know that for the sake of the story or for the plot or for the characters, like, damn, they really should have had that conversation, step in and go, hey guys, have this conversation.
Yeah.
Because some players, like the person that was opposite Madison, are just not going to be as naturally inclined to pursue that conversation.
And that's okay. And sometimes, and like, that's why you have these things in place and why you have a relationship with your DM where they feel comfortable enough to be like, hey, like kind of dig into that a little bit more. Because I think one of the biggest differences between like, your table that you play at in the basement versus like watching the people on Dimension 20 or Critical Role, in the way that like emotional impact lands on those shows versus like at your own table, sometimes I think truly is going to boil down to your inner party relationships with each other. Because I think if
how invested you are, how much effort you've put into it.
have a relationship with the people that you're playing with, and your character doesn't have a relationship with the other characters at the table, there's nothing really at stake. Like, yeah, the world is at
See,
stake.
that's where it gets difficult,
but-
though, because some people aren't going to be able to have the time in real life or even the interest to get to know the other players.
Yeah. And it's tricky because we're
You
playing
know?
on a campaign where we can only play for so many hours a week, and we have limited time with each other. And
I
we
mean,
have
we play more than most fucking tables get
Yeah.
to play. There for a while, I mean, it was once every week, so that
Yeah.
came out to 4 times a month. You
Yeah.
know,
but at the same time, because of the stuff we were doing, it didn't feel like we had like our downtime was spent talking to each other. And like,
Yeah.
I think that one of the biggest like tips I
downtime
can
was
give
spent
as a
trying to figure
player,
out what to fucking do next. Like,
Yeah.
cool. So I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm doing that. There was
I
no
truly
downtime where it
think-
was like we sit down with a slice of pizza and talk. It, you know.
truly as a player, my best advice that I can give is like if you are given downtime, spend it doing a fucking beach episode with your party or a fucking bottle episode or whatever you want to call
Yeah,
it. I just
something,
like
man.
to call them those. But like do something
I mean, I always call
fun.
them slice of life episodes.
Have a
That's
filler
what they are.
episode,
Slice
like
of
a
life
slice of life, a
episodes.
filler. I think that those are going to set the ground for really impactful moments later on where you're going to be able to encourage someone to do something. And it means a lot more that you're encouraging them because of this shared history that you have versus like the opposite. And I think that it's just something that's like, having that investment is so big, and I think it's something where you just got to find other people at the table that are kind of like on your and this is also coming from a perspective of like we don't know what your table looks like as two hosts. I'm kind of speaking from experience at our table.
Pretty fucking
and
good idea of what the majority of them look like, truly, because it's not that varied of an experience.
The table that we are playing at is one that is I'm the big like role play focused person.
Yeah.
And like that's my favorite part of the game, and it is
Mhm.
not really everyone else at the table's favorite, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Um,
We got our chess players, we got our combat buddies, you know,
Yeah,
we got like the plot finders, like
we play it a very classic D&D table in my
Mhm.
mind. It is
yeah,
a very
no,
like
it is very straight up
a very
yeah,
old
traditional D&D.
school, like when you imagine a table full of people playing D&D.
full of men. I mean,
That's
let's be honest. When you
yeah.
mention,
I didn't
uh,
want to say
a
it.
basement full of neckbeards sitting in their basement with slices of pizza and some beers, like that.
And then me.
and then Madison, who's an
Um,
actor.
Yeah. So, you know, it's also a thing of like managing expectations, which we've talked about before several times on the show of like kind of know what the vibe is and what the this is when you can help me out with a word.
Like the theme, the feeling, the tone.
I don't know, man. Sorry.
No,
the
I'm
ter-
just kind of confused what we were going for. I mean, I think
don't
the
know.
vibe fits.
but
though.
the vibe or the feeling of like the table and what other
So-
players are like wanting.
Question for you then: how, as in, try and give the most non-actor answer
I'll
you can.
Try my best.
I'm hearing a lot of like, try and manage this, try and have a relationship, try and like look for things here and look for the things here. How?
Hey, this shit sucks. Do you have something you want to send in to make it better? Criticisms, topics you'd like to see discussed, or an advertisement you'd like to run? Maybe you even want to sponsor an episode.
If so, shoot us a message at mc460@evansville.edu or DM us on Instagram at Crescent Magazine. Or we'll never get better like these fucking guys.
You have to metagame a
Ow.
little. You have to metagame a little. If you find the way that I like to do it,
Mm-hmm.
the way that I like to approach it, as Maddie, and this is not an actor answer, this is a legit Maddie answer. I like to see what the hooks are that I can dig my little goblin hands into and rip and tear
dice
into.
goblin hands.
I wasn't even gonna go there. I'm not a dice goblin, and I
She's
stand by
acknowledged
that.
she's a goblin. You heard it here.
Gremlin. Sorry, I'm a gremlin. That fits better.
We can start saying dice gremlin if it
We
makes you
don't
feel
need to
better.
say dice gremlin. Anyway, if I know that a character, I'm gonna use the fucking warlock and cleric example again. If I know that a character, and I know as Maddie that this character is a warlock and has a fiend patron, even if my character doesn't know that, I know that that is going to make for a really interesting dynamic because they are like conflicting. So I am going to have my character asking questions about the warlock's patron and be like, "Oh, that's Eldritch Blast. I didn't know you were a warlock. That's cool. Who's your patron?"
Nah.
Oh, that's so neat. Have you ever considered our Lord and Savior?
Have you ever
Or like
considered
finding a
our
way to
Lord
kind
and
of like
Savior? That's so
explore
funny.
that there. So that's the way that I like to approach it, is finding those hooks and finding where your character and another character could overlap, or
Mhm.
your character and another character would have conflict, and hitting those things and hitting them as aggressively as possible. Um, because
Hitting them as aggressively as possible.
well, sometimes I don't think there's a lot of room in D&D for subtlety when it comes for players. I think a lot of the time we imagine and
I
we
think
want to
there's
do a
subtlety
thing.
for the people that have done it a long time. I think there is
Yeah.
zero room for it when you are just trying to like play the game and you're not that experienced with it, you know?
So I think the thing of like holding a secret and being
Oh.
edgy is great in theory, but I
Also
think
really
that
fucking stupid. Like I'll say
Yeah.
it, it's dumb. There's
I
no
was-
reason for you to hold edgy boy secrets at a table where the whole reason you're there, both as a person and as a PC,
is to work together.
is to work together.
Yeah.
Yes, you can make a character in a background who's fundamentally opposed to working in groups. That doesn't mean that you get explicit permission to dick off Batman
Yeah.
style the whole fucking game.
And we've talked about that several times.
I think, to insert the DM 2 cents here, I think in terms of hooks too, speaking directly to the DMs, not so much to the players, working those hooks in as much as you can to connect the players, I think is a really great way to do that too. Like if you see an opportunity, sorry, even if it's something that you haven't written, but it's something you know can give them a connection, fucking take it, man. Like it is a super easy switch to say, instead of Sebastian going out and hanging with his best friend who has very little connection to the rest of the party, Ricky, instead I'm going to have Sebastian go and hang out with his new best friend, Parker, who's out there doing like the Lord's work and is also currently having a strained relationship with another party member. That's going to get everybody, at least those two people, a lot more invested in that one interaction and could eventually lead to some connecting and some hooking.
Yeah.
But if I had just said, cool, Sebastian, you're going to go hang out with Ricky for the day, I mean, that player also has interest in Ricky, but Ricky's not also that player's best friend. So, like, there's no connecting of the dots there. Like, it's, yes, self-contained, but also aid your players with feeling connected to one another by giving them similar fucking anything. Similar friends, similar weapons, similar powers, relationships, fucking partners, plot hooks.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think it's something
Make one character's arc necessary for another character's arc.
I love doing shit like that. And that's another thing that you can talk to other players at your table about, is being like, I would love for our characters to have this type of arc. And that's like, that just in general, I didn't write this down, but that's something that like I'm very pro, is straight up having a conversation with either your player or your DM and say, hey, I want my character to have this type of arc. I don't think that's cheating. I think that that's actually incredibly helpful if you verbalize what you want.
Helps me
from
a lot,
character.
for sure.
And it like also gives, at least from my perspective, if I was DMing, I think it would give me kind of an idea and a direction of like where I can go and where I can take something if I wanted to. And it also sets like a kind of clear expectation. There's another player at our table who I was like, I want our characters to be like really good friends. Like our characters are the two closest characters in age to each other. We're from the same part of town. Like,
yeah.
And
would
we're
be
both
nice.
like pretty new to the game, and every other character is like older than us by almost 20 years. Our characters should be good friends, like by all means. So like next time that we've got downtime, let's hang out together.
Right.
And like let's try and make these characters like friends, because I think that there's sometimes like when we've done like one shots and stuff, I feel like all of our parties and like characters have meshed together so quickly because there's no time for like
Because also
exposition.
make you all like a pre-made group of people.
Yeah.
I go, you all have a bond before this. Here's the
Yeah.
bond. Y'all know each other.
Yeah. And I think that that's also like something, but if you're like playing in a long form, like a long run campaign,
Where people have to find each other naturally and the party
Yeah.
has to come together.
I think that's when it becomes more difficult. But I also think that you can like kind of take initiative there and be like, I've decided that this is our like dynamic. Another easy way to do that, like give another character a nickname. Like that's such an easy way to like establish like a familiarity and some sort of relationship.
And see, I think what keeps a lot of people from doing that kind of stuff, though, is that it feels cringy to them.
And I think if it's
To
only
be
cringy if you
like
make it.
Sebastian, you know, or like
Seabass.
or like Dee Dee for Daisy Dance or some shit
Yeah.
like that. Like that, like I don't know. So much of the role playing issue when it comes to D&D is that we are not professional actors.
Yeah.
We have not been trained to get over that cringiness, and we are not willing to cross those social boundaries, of which are like fundamentally required for us to cross in order to create
Yeah.
sort of the best version of the game we can.
And I think that that's always going to be the biggest hurdle for people in D&D.
And there's not a how-to truly. I mean,
Yeah.
there are, but like it's gonna be the same how-to of like how to get over like.
I'm not
going
going to sit here and also act like, as someone who's in college to be an actor, I have those moments in my acting classes where I'm like, I feel like someone's about to pop. Maybe it's a result of like bullying in school, but I feel like someone's about to pop out and be like, fucking got you, you goddamn loser. What the fuck are you doing? Oh my God. You're really like pretending to be a squirrel right now? You're pretending to be 80% squirrel, 20% human? That's fucking stupid, which is a real exercise that we had to do in class, by the way.
So fucking silly, man.
Yeah, it's silly, but guess what? It was
Credit-
some of the most
credit to
fun
you.
I've ever had.
Credit to you, man.
And it's one of those things where like sometimes you got to figure out a way to like not be cringy. And I think my way of like kind of reaching that point is like I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons in a basement at a table with a table full of men.
Yeah.
What else is left? I have nowhere else to fall.
Playing Magic the Gathering.
I have nowhere. Truly, the only way that I could make it weirder for myself and sadder for myself is if I joined you all for your game of Magic the Gathering after, of which I used to play with you all. So I've already reached that low point.
Yeah.
I think, truly, and this is my best way to get over it, and I mean this with love, you're already playing Dungeons and Dragons. You're
Yeah.
not, you don't have to worry about being the coolest person in the room.
Well, and it's like that step of forming those really personal connections is such a small, like if you've already managed to get the table, you've already managed to say something in character, you've already managed to make a background and have a shtick and a story and a style, what difference is it going to make for you if we're talking about feeling sort of socially anxious to ask that person, not in an accent, not in a voice, just as you, playing as that character, you want to get a slice of pizza?
Yeah.
It's not. It's not.
I promise
there's
you
no
that is the
difference.
least weird thing that you were doing.
Truly, and it's gonna make everyone else feel like, wow, we're playing like in a real world, because there's no real world where you're gonna risk your life with these people and then not like also hang out with them.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what the lamest thing that you can do at the table is not
That's when we're
care.
just shitting on people who just don't role play.
I mean, it definitely sounds like it. And maybe I am
You
a
don't
little.
role play? Fuck you. You're the loser.
Yeah. I think, and like when someone's putting themselves out there, the worst thing you can do is also not put yourself out there because you're gonna look infinitely more like a fucking loser.
So
If
sorry
someone
you
is
play
like,
at our table.
can't say that.
No, but like on that point of like worst thing you could do is not put yourself out there. Most of the motherfuckers at our table are just like a little scared to put themselves out there. I
I
mean, I think this
know.
is the one semester where people are like finally coming out of their shell and
And
like
it's
really
fun.
role playing. But before that, they were the people that like
It was.
not putting themselves out
I'm
there.
not gonna lie. I'm not gonna sit here and
I
pretend
met
like
you
it's.
Batman in a cave.
I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like that is not something that I struggle with at our table. But I know the people at our table, and I love them. You're messing with the document.
I am messing with it.
Okay. And don't stare at me while you do it, you fucking freak. And I think that that's something that like I've had to deal with, and that's like going back to dealing with expectations. How long are you gonna do this bit, Robert?
Long enough for my brain to turn on.
Okay. Well, speaking of which, I mean, this is gonna get kind of like into DM territory here.
Woo.
If
to
we're
be
doing an
useful.
episode called character relationships, I feel like we also have to address like the other type of relationships that kind of exist in the game, which are very common in a lot of tables that have not happened really at ours yet.
Romantic
Which
relationships.
are romantic relationships.
We finally got a couple. We got a couple of inklings in this one.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how things happen
What's
this
so
time
funny,
around
though, is that, like,
because
there's no reason why like Sebastian and Daisy should not be semi-interested in one another. Y'all are the same age. We both know that you are attractive in the game, but because
Yes.
you two as players are so absolutely not,
no,
never gonna happen.
yeah, it's
never
one of
gonna
those thi-
happen. Like.
There's so many times where I'm like
Well, it's
sitting
like
there.
you put Beast Boy and Raven in a room. How do you expect the two of them not to like hang out and talk to one another and kind
Yeah.
of like flirt a little bit?
I
Well, we
mean,
got two people
We've managed to do that.
that fit the demographic, And they don't even acknowledge that the other person
No,
is like
it's-
semi-attractive or also in the same profession.
And this is like where we as a table are the polar opposite of like so many other D&D tables, which is like so many other tables. It's like, yeah, you flirt with your friends and you and your friend make little
Roll
characters
for MILFs.
and they fall in love and it's so cute. Our table, and I mean this with love, it is I love every one of their tables.
Well, I
to
mean,
death.
there's something that's a little there that's a little weird about flirting with your male friend or female
Yeah.
friend if you are the opposite gender.
Yeah, and I think that that's like one of the biggest hurdles at our table is we are it is a
I mean, our male players will just straight up touch each other at the table. They don't give
Yeah.
a fuck.
yeah, and it's something where like this is one of the situations where like I'm sorry, I have a Twizzler in my mouth. Robert, you talk for like 10 seconds.
I'll talk for 10 seconds. So I think when talking about the DM perspective, specifically when you're looking at romantic relationships, I don't have a lot of expertise with it. You want to know why? Because nobody at our table has dared to cross that line. But we've gotten close this semester, and it's only really happened with a couple of different people, and it's basically just like this: will they, won't they?
Yeah.
I made Aunt May for Batman, and Batman rolled like
backfired
a
so fast.
23, and then basically was like, your lips are the color of roses, and then proceeded to turn around and like basically have a panic attack and vomit. Like on a 23.
And that was like we're not sure if that was the player or the character in that moment.
100%. But like it's difficult because romantic relationships are like the ultimate private like connection that you can have with another person. For the same reason that like guys will play grab ass, but guys also won't talk about their feelings with one
Yeah.
another. There's a line there that is like fundamentally not to be crossed,
Yeah.
and people are just as scared about crossing that line at the table too.
Yeah. And I think at our specific table, it's an interesting thing of talking about like it is a table full of male friends that have been friends for a while, and then me.
And it's really difficult to separate the fact like reality
Yeah.
from the game.
And it's one of those situations where it's like that's a weird thing to navigate of like me being at the
Well,
table
if
because
Dakota
I'm like
playing Sebastian and Daisy and Madison playing, Maddie and Maddie playing Daisy start flirting with one another at the table, it's kind of like, okay, this is gross to watch.
yeah.
And I know it feels gross on their part because they're basically like brother and sister.
Yeah, and it's one of those things of like I'm playing at a table full of my brothers.
Yeah, so you're not going to be like, hey, brother, you look kind of cute.
Yeah, absolutely not. And that's something where like you have a conversation with your DM, and
That's when
like
your
your
DMs
other
start
players.
giving you hot NPCs to flirt with.
Yeah. And it was like the closest that we had to like a romantic relationship, in our previous campaign was still like it was never spoken about. Like it was never acknowledged. It was like there were a couple jokes from like NPCs,
Which one?
Adel and Magnolia.
Oh, yeah.
Like there were jokes from NPCs, because there was like a
Like they were definitely
like,
a thing.
sharing a room.
They just like never acknowledged it at the table or
no,
in game, you know.
because it would be weird. They got married. They straight up got married in that last fight.
Oh, yeah, but not really.
Yeah, but like
not
still,
married for the buff, not like walk down the
no, it was for
aisle
the it was
because
for the
they
like the bonus points, but like,
got married. You said
it
that
was-
like y'all like got fucking like had a whole
we got
ceremony.
hitched. No, it was so we could do a really cool thing, and then it didn't happen.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where it's
Like
like,
everyone knew.
yeah, but it was like any time that I, as Magnolia, tried to like talk about feelings with that specific character, it got shut down so fucking fast.
Because that player in real life is a little scared of those feelings sometimes.
And that's one of those things where like you got to feel out the comfort of the
Just a
people that
little
you're playing
terrified,
with.
You know?
And see like what they're okay with and like where the line is between the table and real life,
Just
which
a
I
little
think that
guy.
some players and some tables are able to do a lot easier than others. We exist at a table where some things are a little bit more
4 men,
difficult.
1 woman.
Yeah,
Yep.
it is such a table. It
Be
is
a great
certainly,
setup for a porno.
Jesus
It's
Christ.
not for a D&D table. You know
No.
why? Because every dick is in every pant, firmly zipped the fuck up at all times.
Where is this? What?
I'm saying that in so many other situations, there is plenty of room for cross-pollination here, and there is
Yeah.
0 at a D&D table,
Correct.
and it's infuriating to watch.
Correct.
Ah,
It is something where, like, I as a player am like a little conflicted because I'm someone who, like, at my other like
I love
tables
the
that I've
note.
played at,
is it weird? Or are you making it weird?
and that's the thing. I think that this is one of those things where like it's only weird if you make it weird. But also on the flip side, I've like
There's no reason that your
anytime-
significant other is gonna go like, yeah, but you can't have like really a female friend.
Yeah.
Like you're not. I'm not really gonna let you guys like cuddle in bed just because it feels nice as people.
Yeah. And I think it's one of those things where if you have like, I think that you can have romantic relationships like as characters at a table with like mixed
Genders.
genders. Just because, and I'm saying that only in the terms of like that is the table that I play at. I think that is okay, but I'm also an actor, and I also like have conversations at the table of like this is what we should do, because we had conversations earlier this year where you were talking about how you wanted to introduce like romantic interests in this
And I
campaign.
tried, and then it ran away from me like a fucking like just train off the track, dude.
Yeah.
Like
And like we've talked a couple times about a possible like a romance setup for Daisy in the future, because that is something that I like want to happen.
everyone
this
thinks
campaign
it's gonna
around.
be her best friend.
Everyone thinks that.
I think Daisy thinks that too. I think Daisy's trying hard enough for there to be something there, and Parker is just.
I think she loves Parker in a specific way.
But I think if Parker was like, "Hey, I like you in a different kind of specific way,"
I don't know.
I don't think there's a world where Daisy's like zero interest, never, ever.
It maybe. I don't know. That's something that'll be explored at the table. But
Or jury.
I think that would be more fun. I infinitely like genuinely that is I
but
think
then
one of the
I
funniest
have to
opportunities.
flirt with you at the table.
I mean, you also play Parker.
Scary.
That's weird shit, and that's
Yeah.
weird shit, and you've got to
That
deal
is
with
weird
that.
shit.
And
And are
have to
you
talk to
making
your
it
DM.
weird, or is it just weird?
I think both. I think both.
I think both.
Both can exist.
100%.
And it's one of those tricky things of like I have so much respect for like the Critical Role cast and the Dimension 20 cast, and watching.
We're just flirting and fucking all
Oh
over the
my
place.
god, it's insane.
Yeah, they do
have
it
like,
so well.
and their like character romances are like they're like romance novels. It's like
Fleshed out, fully
it's
there.
intense, and they're
Uh-huh.
like their wives and husbands are at the table with them.
Yeah,
like
shit's
Critical Role, there are multiple
crazy.
married couples. There
Yeah.
are 2 married couples at that table, and let me tell you, you want to know who hypes up their relationships with other PCs more than
Significant
anyone else?
others.
Their fucking husband. When I tell you, Travis was hyped as fuck for fucking Vex and Percy. That shit was adorable. Like no one was more excited about that romance than he was.
Max
Like
and
I
Percy's so fun.
so much respect for like that whole like
Mhm.
the idea of like you can like form like these really cool like fleshed out relationships.
Yeah.
Um
But I think kind of getting back to why there's such an emphasis on those kinds of relationships is like if I say roll a d20 for your last saving throw and you fail and you have no relationship to anybody in the party and you're like, damn,
that sucks.
that sucks for you because like you don't get to play the rest of this combat encounter. We're gonna go back to what we were doing, but
Yeah.
like, wow, that really sucks.
Versus like your husband watches you fall from
Uh-huh.
across the battlefield. Like that shit's got intrigue.
I want to go into a rage, like and then it's
Yeah.
fun and it's a whole thing.
I think it's also for me as like a person
have
and a
some skin
creator
in the game,
who's
dude.
made like a million characters, and even like not in D&D fashion have done a thing where like I've created the character and worked with other people who've created the character in that same world, and we like work and like flesh out a story together and blah blah blah.
Ah.
Romantic relationships are always a fun thing to do because they're just fun to play. Like as a player, as like an actor, as a creator, those type of relationships are so important.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of emphasis on those in our culture, and I think that's why people gravitate towards them, which I think is also when everyone at the table's like, no, Daisy's got to be in love with Parker. And I'm like, is that the case? Or
Yeah.
does she just have a really deep relationship with him, and we just have so much emphasis on romantic relationships
So I have a question
as a culture?
for both of us. How it's about one of the points on here, which is how to encourage difference in non-positive relationships without PvP.
Mm-hmm.
How do you as a player approach a situation where in character another character fully like steps to you and is like, I don't agree with the decision you just made. I don't like you as a person. We're in a party. This is a very loose relationship, and in this moment right here and right now, I'm calling you on your shit.
Ooh.
How do you take that in a non-PvP route if that is not the direction that you wish to go without blowing up the fucking party?
Okay, I'm gonna sound like a bitch right now. I'm gonna need more specifics. And
So-
only because I think that it's something that varies from situation
So let's
to
say
situation.
with like a Magnolia situation. It never really happened. I mean, it happened a couple times, but it never really like really happened. So let's say a rogue goes and like robs a bank.
Mhm.
and Paladin like picks up on it last minute because Rogue drops like I don't know a piece like a jewel on the way in the door of their hideout, and then Paladin confronts that Rogue that evening, and everyone at the table knows, including person playing character who is Rogue and person playing character who is Paladin, that like their ideologies, their personalities have already been on opposite ends of the spectrum, and this is like the straw that breaks the camel's back. How do you not have it end up in a party blow up or a situation where you both as people just go, we're not going to acknowledge that?
Here is how I, as a player,
Without it turning into, cool, we're fighting each other.
I know. Here's how I, as a player, would handle that type of situation. And this is like, I'm going to be like going like in full detail of like the actions that I would take.
Mm-hmm.
I think that a way to like explore or avoid that would be something along the lines of I would take that character, I would do a private confrontation.
Yeah.
And I still think you can have a full speech and you can have a full step up moment of I know what the fuck you're doing
Mm-hmm.
and it's not okay and I'm not going to do with it. I think that the way that you get out of it being PvP is relying on outside circumstances. I think going and leaning like into this person and being like, hey, motherfucker, we have bigger stakes at play.
Mm-hmm.
We are on the middle of like, we are in the middle of hunting down this fucking dragon that has burned down my grandma's village. And I am not letting you and your dumbass decisions get in the way of that. So I'm going to tell you right now, I do not like you. We like this. And as soon as our time as a party is done, I will deal with that.
So then what do you do when the other player not clearly picking up on, because this happens with us all the fucking time at the table. What happens when the other person goes, you know what? No, this is a problem. This is a standing problem. It needs to be dealt with right here, right now. I don't fuck with this whole let's do it later bullshit. You're gonna call me out on my stuff? Nah, that's not the route we're going.
Oh. Well, one, I think that's a moment where you as a player, or this is what I would do as a player, I would look at that other player and go, what the fuck are you doing? Like real life, hey, this is Maddie right now. Bro, we can't do this. That is always an option. And I do want to put that out there just straight
No, I
up
agree.
because we
Agree.
had a moment at the table where I was getting a little like, come
on,
with
guys.
the situation. And I
on.
like fully
Come
broke
on.
and was like, hey, this is Maddie talking to the other person at the table. What are we doing right now? Is this really what we're doing? Because I'm not spending 20 minutes doing this in real time.
Yeah.
So we're going to move on.
No, I agree.
I think genuinely having your player disengage or having a player be like, you're not, because you can go, I'm the bigger person and I'm not going to fight you. Or you can be like, you can kind of take like the petty around, be like, you're not even fucking worth the effort that I'm putting in.
I think the outside extenuating circumstances is almost always going to be your best default in that situation. To answer my own question, I think being like, hey, there are just things that are bigger than us right now, and for the sake of getting through this, like, yeah, we will PvP on the second to last session. You bet your ass. I'll be there. Time and place at this, like, specific tree where we met, me and you. Fucking no holds bar, one person walks away, one person doesn't. But then being like, but we have shit to do right now.
Yeah.
I think as a DM, how I would handle that situation if, like, two people were, like, dead set, or one person is very clearly like, I don't want to PvP, either because they know they're going to lose, or because it's not the right thing to happen, and one person is like, no, let me hit them. I'm asking you to roll for initiative. Let me hit them. I think, truly, I think as a DM, that's a situation where you just have to go, you know what, not right now.
Yeah.
Not right now. Like, or that's when you're like, and suddenly somebody knocks on the door.
I was going to say, that's another thing with extenuating circumstances.
Suddenly, like, the other two PCs who have been in the wings watching this argument go down walk back into the house or show up at the hideout, or you hear an explosion, or your sending stone begins to vibrate. Like, that's when you have to, like, throw a fucking wrench right in between them and be like, there's something else bigger than you all right now. If your players aren't, I don't want to say not intelligent enough, but if your players aren't, like, perceptive enough, if they aren't there to pick it up, you put it down in front of them.
Yeah.
You go, no.
And I think that's something that you as a player can also do if you see this happening with two other players. You can fucking
like,
jump in.
Can I just, that's when you go to your DM. You, can I just walk in right now? Can I just, like, I have pizza, guys.
Yeah, and it's something that you're going to, like, read differently at every table, in every situation, because maybe this is a moment where you do want PvP to happen. And
I would say always ask permission in that kind of situation, though, because there are definitely times where, like, two players are having their thing, and yes, it could be disastrous, but they also want to play it out. And so to just have another PC who's, like, fully uninvolved in this situation go, and suddenly I walk in.
That just feels very, like, Okay.
Yeah, like you didn't ask permission to do that. Yes, we live in a world where that could happen. No, this is not your moment. Fully ask your DM in this moment, or even ask the players, hey guys, can I walk in this moment to like diffuse or
Yeah.
just to be like comedic relief or something? Most
Yeah.
times you'll get told yes.
Yeah. And I think just, oh my gosh, I had like a whole thought and then it just fucking slipped.
Gone to the ether.
Truly. That ass. That
Yeah.
ass.
Yeah.
Anyway, oh, this is another one. Just fun character relationships that you can explore within your party. And this is just me kind of rattling off tropes that I like.
Buddy cop.
A buddy cop is, it will always be one of the funniest fucking things.
Mm-hmm.
One of my personal favorite is like the reformed villain buddy cop situation where like the vibe in like Thor Ragnarok where like Loki and Thor are like working together again.
Yeah.
And it's like one person clearly doesn't want to be here and does not agree with the rules and the way that we're doing this. But God fucking, I have to do this. And now you just have like, it's party full of clerics and then their one fucking like warlock friend who doesn't want to be there. That's so funny.
I don't want to be here any more than you all want.
That is always so funny. And that is always a funny like party dynamic.
Funny, haha.
I think that a parent character is always fucking funny, whether that be a literal parent or just a character that is like fully taking the role of being like, okay, guys,
Like Dad Batman.
yeah, like the mom friend or the dad friend or dad Batman. Like that is also infinitely gonna be kind of like a funny thing, and I think it gives everyone
Just
equal
like
opportunity.
a little side note here too. This is something that I've just now in this moment decided I wanted to do, but also something I would encourage other DMs to think about doing. Don't be afraid to do like a little mid-campaign check-in with your players, you know? That could be, hey, there's this plot line that I gave you, and you just sort of fucked off with it. I don't know if you remember it. I don't know if you're intentionally ignoring it. I can't force you to go after it, but like, hey, maybe at the end of that rainbow, there's a pot of gold waiting for you, and it's pretty cool. And I wanted you to pick that up, because like maybe that person is like voicing a lot of disgruntled, I'm not getting any, any attention or any focus or any this or any that. And if you as a DM have like thrown it out there, breadcrumbs, and they've just like stepped all over that shit, hey bro, breadcrumbs, they're still there. I left them there for you.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm giving it to you in a fucking present. Like, just pick it up. I think in the same way, if there are relationships that you want your players to explore or certain kinds of role play that you would like players to emphasize, doing those check-ins too, I think would really be helpful. Like in this moment, my thought was I kind of want to tell Dad Batman guy to be a little bit more dad-like, because I feel like that's how he's positioned himself, but he's not really stepping into that role any other way than being like, here's money for your problems. And I personally would love to see him be anything other than here's money for your problems. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with like a couple of the other characters. Just general feedback being like, be more this, be less that. I like this direction that we're going. What can we do with it? You don't always have to just leave it up to your players to like stumble into some role playing or relationship gold. You can also just be like, hey, I can see it because I got big picture. Maybe lean a little more on this. Maybe go pick up that. Maybe do a little insight check, a little perception check on that thing. Ask this person out to coffee.
Yeah.
Maybe something will happen. You know?
Magical.
Metagame. Just metagame. You can
yeah.
do that. That's allowed.
Truly. I think there's so many like of those fun like metagaming things. And like you can also just like pick a fucking trope or like a concept and like straight up like just tell it to your party.
Yeah, just build your character too, like as a player. Build your character around a trope and just let everyone know.
Like I think another one of the like really good ones or like ones that are always funny are like the like unlikely pair. Of like two characters that seem so fucking different but are like besties.
Mm-hmm.
That's always funny. If you look at like Pike and Grog from Vox Machina,
the first example that came to my mind.
like that is always funny if you have like this big hulking like scary character and this like tiny little like sunshine character. That's so funny. Or like a overly pessimistic fucking like asshole jaded character and like a fucking sunshine, like a goddamn ray of sunshine. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Like all of those things are really fun.
Yep. Don't be afraid to mix it up.
What are other like I immediately like normally I'm so good at like having tropes and shit and I've like lost all of them instantly.
I think other tropes. Fuck's sake. I mean, there's so many of them. I think, the buddy cop one is just funny as fuck. I think having two people in like unrelated jobs like come together and then be like, oh shit, you're also in the system, or like even having the like you've always been there. The characters that had every reason to meet and never met until this moment.
It's like, oh my god, wait, you're from like 2 blocks over.
Yeah, or having
That's
those
crazy.
little connections happen behind the scene where
wait,
like
you know so and such, I know so and such.
You know Ricky, I know Ricky. I'm from the Fringes too.
Yeah.
It's shit living here? Yeah, it's shit living here.
That's like that shit. Just do stuff that you find funny. Legitimately, that's what this boils down to.
Yeah.
Do shit that you find funny.
100%.
Like, that's truly where you're going to have the most fun in the game.
Comedy's where it's at, dude. Speaking of comedy, thank you all for listening to another episode of Table Talk. We will see you again soon.
Bye.
I like to think of us as comedians. I'm sorry. Are we not? Is that not what we are?
No, I like to think I'm a comedian.
And see, that's where the real comedy's at.
I will kill you.